Margaret Hilda Roberts was born on October 13, 1925, in Grantham, England, to Alfred and Beatrice Roberts. The Roberts lived in a cold water flat above a grocery store owned by Alfred, the son of a shoemaker. Alfred was also a Methodist preacher and local politician who trained his children to follow the tenets of Methodism: personal responsibility, hard work, and traditional moral values. Margaret's interest in politics was an offshoot of her father's involvement in conservative politics as a member of the town's council. Margaret won a scholarship to Grantham and Grantham Girls' School. In 1943, at 17, she gained admission into Somerville College, Oxford, to study chemistry. She was barred from joining the Oxford Union Debating Society. It did not admit women until 1963. Nevertheless, she became a member of the Oxford University Conservative Association and its president in 1946. In 1947, she graduated and earned a master's degree in chemistry. She then worked as a chemical researcher while studying law. After graduating from college, Margaret decided to pursue a career in politics. At age 23, she was selected to be a conservative candidate for parliament. In 1949, Margaret met Dennis Thatcher, a well-to-do businessman and former artillery officer who had been decorated for bravery during World War II. The couple got married in December 1951. In August 1953, the union was blessed with twins, Mark and Carol. In December that same year, she was called to bar and came to specialize in patent and tax laws. The Thatcher family prospered, and soon Mrs. Thatcher gained the financial independence to devote herself to politics. In 1950, she campaigned to be a member of parliament from Dartford, a Labour Party preserved, being the youngest woman to run for a seat that year. As expected, Margaret lost to Winston Churchill. She contested the following year again and lost. Nonetheless, she earned the respect of her political party peers with her speeches. In 1959, Margaret won a seat in the House of Commons representing Finchley. That marked the beginning of her political strides. 2 years later, Margaret was appointed Parliamentary Under-Secretary for Pensions and National Insurance. When the Labour Party took control of the government, she became a member of what is called the Shadow Cabinet, a group of political leaders who would hold cabinet-level posts if their party was in power. In June 1970, when Conservatives returned to office, Margaret was appointed the Secretary of State for Education and Science. She was labeled Thatcher Milk Snatcher after her abolition of the Universal Free School Milk Scheme. In 1974, the Conservative Party lost power. However, Margaret became a dominant force in her political party and was elected leader of the Conservative Party in 1975, beating out Heath for the position. With this victory, she became the first woman to serve as the opposition leader in the House of Commons. It was a time of economic and political turmoil in England, with the government nearly bankrupt, unemployment on the rise, and conflicts with labor unions. The Conservatives took advantage of the instability to return to power in 1979. That same year, being the party leader, Margaret made history when she appointed Britain's first female prime minister. Immediately after her appointment to office, Margaret fought the country's recession by initially raising interest rates to control inflation. She obliterated Britain's traditional industries through her attacks on labor organizations such as the Miners' Union and for the massive privatization of social, housing, and public transport. One of her devoted allies was the then US President, Ronald Reagan, a fellow conservative. The duo shared similar right-wing, pro-corporate political philosophies. During her first term, Margaret faced a military challenge. In April 1982, Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands, a territory assumed to belong to Britain. Taking swift action, Margaret sent British troops to the territory to reconquer the islands in what became known as the Falkland War Argentina surrendered in 1982. In her second term from 1983 to 1987, Margaret handled a handful of conflicts and crises, the most threatening being the assassination attempt against her in 1984. The Irish Republic Army had planted a bomb at a Conservative conference in Brighton in October to take her life. Undoubted and unharmed, Margaret insisted that the conference continue and gave a speech the following day. As for foreign policy, Margaret met with Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet leader, in 1984. The same year, she signed an agreement with the Chinese government regarding the future of Hong Kong. Publicly, Margaret voiced her support for Reagan's air raids on Libya in 1986 and even allowed US forces to use British bases to help carry out the attack. In 1987, Margaret ran for a third term. She sought to implement a standard educational curriculum across the nation and make changes to the country's socialized medical system. Conversely, she lost a lot of support due to her efforts to implement a fixed-rate local tax, labeled a poll tax by many, since she sought to disenfranchise those who did not pay it. This led to public protest and caused rebellion within her party. On November 22, 1990, having the support of her party, Margaret announced her resignation, and on November 28, she officially departed from 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister's official residence, for the last time. Shortly after leaving office, Margaret was appointed to the House of Lords as Baroness Thatcher of Kesteven. In 1992, she chronicled her experience as a world leader and a pioneering woman in the field of politics in 2 books, The Downing Street Years 1993 and The Path to Power 1995. In 2002, she published another book, Statecraft, in which she offered her views on international politics. Around this period, Margaret suffered a series of small strokes. Tragedy hit her when, in 2003, when her husband of more than 50 years, Dennis, died. In the year that followed, Margaret said goodbye to an old friend and ally, Ronald Reagan. In 2005, Margaret celebrated her 80th birthday. A huge event was held in her honor, which had Queen Elizabeth II, Tony Blair, and nearly 600 other friends, family members, and former colleagues in attendance. In 2007, a sculpture of the strong conservative leader was unveiled in the House of Commons. Margaret battled with memory problems in her later years due to her stroke. This caused her to retreat from the spotlight, living in near seclusion at her home in London's Belgravia neighborhood. Margaret died on April 8, 2013 at age 87. She was survived by her 2 children and Sir Mark. Thank you very much for watching our videos. We'd like to give you another exciting video for you to enjoy next. But before then, our team will be pleased if you can like this video and share with your friends on social media. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss other exciting videos like this. Look at your screen now to see 2 other videos we handpicked for you to enjoy next. We love you.